Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our third session in Gigonomics course. I'm Professor Grafton White, Director of the Business School, and it's my job to take you through lesson number 3. Welcome back. For those of you that have been with us for the last 2 weeks, thank you for your support, and for folks that are joining us for the first time today, we welcome you on this Gigonomics course. What is Gigonomics? And we've been dealing with this topic for the last couple of weeks and defining it in these terms. Gigonomics is about understanding work in the post-coronavirus economy, where many people will have to learn how to work as gig entrepreneurs and not employees, embrace the uncertainty of the gig economy. And we're already experiencing many people of working with 0-hour contracts, and maybe this will become the norm as we go forward. We'll have to learn how to work with a portfolio of gigs, not just one stream of income, and derive our main source of income from gig working as opposed to other forms of employment. CVs will be a record of great performances, not time spent. Gigonomics is about understanding work in the post-coronavirus economy, where people have to learn to work as gig entrepreneurs and not employees, embrace the uncertainty of the gig economy, work with a portfolio of gigs, portfolio of income streams, and derive their main source of income from working, from gig working. And CVs will be a record of great performances, not time spent. Key capacity areas. Here we're talking and reminding folks that the focus of the course, we're saying that for gig entrepreneurs, the key skill areas that they need to deploy is they need to have knowledge about the product or service they want to go to market with. Whatever it is, cake baking, amateur photography, development of apps, the whole range of things it could be. You need to understand the operations of how you bring that product to market. So that's operations. We dealt with that last week. Today we're dealing with human capital, the idea of how do you bring people into your business, into your orbit, and actually motivate yourself and motivate them to help you to achieve your vision. Customers and markets, that you need to be able to sell your product to customers in a particular market. You need to be able to keep count, which is finance, and for sustainability, you need some form of strategy. And what we've identified are these are the core business ideas, areas, and business areas of thinking that your gig entrepreneur needs to acquire. So hence the 6 parts of this course and the focus of this course. Let's just recap very briefly on session 2. Session 2, we talked about operations and we talked about value chain. And we said the 4 big ideas in that value chain thinking is that we need to be able to distinguish between primary and support activities. Primary and support. Primary activities are your inbound logistics operations, outbound logistics, marketing and service, and the value add therefrom. Direct costs versus indirect costs and value. And thank you for Leon last week pointed out that we got a bit sloppy in our language. We start talking about profit. It wasn't profit. Profit is a construct from accountants. It's margin. It's what you earn at the margin. So we looked at direct costs and values versus indirect costs and value. And in the value chain identifies and makes a distinction between those things very clearly for us. It's a visual model of a lower cost or differentiation strategy. So we're saying that if we can cut costs in each of these areas here, that will have a direct impact on the cost or value of our product. And it also allowed us to identify what's our USP, what is our unique selling proposition, or unique selling purpose, and focus on those. There's no point in a fledgling business or a gig business to be spending a huge amount of money on, head offices, fast cars, expensive resources, expensive people, if they're not doing anything. Technology, fancy computer systems, or a massive procurement, if they're not contributing directly to the product or services we're trying to sell. And this is what this value chain model brought to the table. So I don't want to go into a whole lesson, repeating that lesson. You can go and listen to the videos on this subject on an individual basis. Okay, so today we're moving on and looking at human capital and how to harness the energy of yourself, your energy, and the energy of others to realize your vision. The tool that we're going to share with you today is emotional intelligence, EQ. Within the language it's used within the industry, EQ, emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? We'll get to that question in a moment. But first of all, just this quote from Glenn Hoppas. Human capital is about how people contribute to growth. Yeah. So we're not talking about human resources, and we're not talking about personnel. We're talking about human capital, and that emphasizes the nature of the individual's ability to create value. So it's about allowing the individual to influence what the business does, rather than the other way around, rather than thinking about just compliance. And that is the focus of today, because many companies are still thinking in terms of human resources, as if people are simply resources to be deployed by the business, rather than stores of capital and capital thinking, creative ability that can contribute to a business. And as gig entrepreneurs, we need to be acutely aware of this if we're going to really add value from the people around us. Okay. Our first poll question today: as a gig entrepreneur, are you a leader or a manager? Some definitions to work by and or to work from. A manager is someone who plans and budgets, organizes and allocates resources, controls and solves problems. A leader is someone who shows direction, aligns and influences, motivates and inspires. So very quickly, we're going to do a lot of interaction today. Very quickly, let me, on our first poll, tell me, do you see yourself as a leader or a manager?
So, Prof, the results are 55% consider themselves to be leaders, while 45% consider themselves to be managers.
Okay. Thank you. 45% versus, did you say 65%? Does that number add up?
So 55
55
for
versus
leaders
45.
And 45.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's really good. So people are seeing themselves as there's a slight or a slight advantage of people seeing themselves as leaders rather than managers, which is good, which is a fairly even split. Okay, thank you for that. This little model really tries to get under the skin of this split between leadership and management. because I think in many minds, the difference between a leader and a manager is fuzzy. And what we're trying to do here is just try to clarify that a little bit more. Leader is concerned with enhancing capacity to achieve a vision, whereas management is concerned with more implementing discipline for effective performance. So in leadership here, when it's dealing with self, it's motivating self. And when it's dealing with the team, the people around you, it's inspiring others and inspiring them to use their capacity to the benefit or to achieving a vision. So it's about capacity building and capacity enablement and motivation. Whereas a manager, the role of a manager is to take ownership of activity and work when it's dealing with self, and facilitate the work and activities of people around them. That's you could see that is imposing some form of discipline and coordination of activities. It is not micromanaging. It's not micromanaging the activities of individuals to a degree where you stifle them. It's about creating, and that's why I've said there is a balance between the two, between leadership and management, because the leadership actually helps to build capacity, helps to unlock capacity within the individual, whereas discipline is about applying it effectively so that it's focused on one goal. So what we're learning from this simple little model is that the two things necessarily work together to achieve the best result. So if you have a leaning in one area, then you also need to work on developing the other side of the coin. We've got a little video here. It really is an interesting, very, very interesting story. And I'm hoping that we're going to have a good experience and see if we can get it to run.
In 1991, the football forward team going into the final was really, really buoyant. All of us individuals who were good at what we did. John Regis, European champion, 200 metres. Roger Black, European champion, 400 metres. Derek Redmond, British record holder, 400 metres. Akabusi, the main man. Well, not easy, not quite, not quite the main man. But European champion, 400 metre hurdles. Great friends, great athletes.
The team's just about to be announced. Will this gamble pay off?
You know, originally Roger Black should be fourth leg runner because at the time he was the silver medalist at the World Championships. But we knew we had to be in contention with the Americans. So from the first leg to the last leg, you have to give the man a chance to perform.
The wind freshening as they get away, and Roger Black in lane number 3 goes straight away, closes right down on the Jamaican.
We know the fastest man in the world, arguably, was going to be running last leg. So we thought if we can stick Roger on first and he puts us up there with the Americans, at least we've only got 3 legs to try and hold them as opposed to having 4 legs.
For me on the line, it was quite simple. Run as fast as you can, give us a lead. Give it to Derek Redmond, who can either extend that lead or at least we'd be in contention. At least the Americans would have something to think about. Give it on the third leg to Big John Regis, stuck up behind an American. Now, if you've got Big John Regis with his little ears, his huge nostrils and his 2 chests up your backside for 400 metres, you will not be thinking about your running style. So he then hands it over to Chris Akabusi on the last leg, also stuck behind an American, laughing in his ear all the way around the track. Method behind our madness.
Black has done a good one, but so too has Valman.
I can remember Roger coming down the home straight, and because it's a 500-metre stagger, I knew we were roughly in the lead. And I just remember thinking, take the baton and get the hell out of there.
At the handoff point, well, it's very close between America and Great Britain, but I think Great Britain have just got the edge.
Going down the home straight, he happened to go past me. I mean, I'd give it everything I got. He was a bit stronger, he went past me, and I just thought, just hang on to him, don't let him open up a gap.
Quincy Watts has got America right back in, and has the British gamble failed?
A lot of people would think, you know, why is the 200-metre man in a 4x4 relay team? Purely and simply because, you know, I was put in the team to do a specific job. My job was to keep in contact with the third leg runner from the US. There actually came a point down the back straight where I actually thought I could have run past, I think the athlete was Danny Everett, because I felt that strong, that confident, and that euphoric.
I remember saying to Johnny before we got on the track, Regis, don't give me that baton 2 metres up. Either 10 up or 2 behind.
So I thought, I don't think I can give him 10 metres. I'll tuck back in and do my job. And fortunately, I did that.
And all of a sudden, I've got to deliver.
America will take over in the lead with their world champion pedigree on the anchor leg. Akabusi goes after him.
What gave me real confidence about being able to run the last leg against the world champion Antonio Pettigrew was the fact that all year I trained with the silver medalist Roger Pretty Boy Black on our track in Southampton. And now Roger ran Pettigrew really close. I'd run Roger close on many occasions, not often, but many occasions in our training sessions. And I knew that if Roger could be that close, so could I.
Now Akabusi has got to sit there and wait and make a late attack if he can.
I'm running after Pettigrew, nick, down the back straight. And let me tell you what I was thinking. Pettigrew, you're jogging.
As Chris got to 200, I thought we could win this.
Time stood still. We're jogging. I look up. There's a big screen. What's going on? Are they catching us? No. Nick. Into the home straight.
This is an important point. Can Akabusi do it?
I thought we could really win this.
Akabusi has a go.
I fly past Pettigrew. I know I'm going to win until about 10 minutes to go. When all of a sudden, my gosh, I'm ahead of Pettigrew. We can do it.
And then Pettigrew started to come back again, and I thought, oh no, it's gone.
And he's fighting back.
My legs start wobbling.
I said, come on, Chris, come on.
Akabusi has made it.
Bam, we crossed that line. Fantastic.
I said, we're world champions. We're world champions. We're world champions.
Let me tell you what was going through my head when I crossed the line straight after the 1991 World Championships. Derek Redmond. He jumps on me, he mugs me, man. He's all over my head.
And the poor lad had just run his life off, and he's got me jumping on his back. So.
And all of a sudden, I see a great big shadow. Johnny, 2 chest, so he just, whoom.
I didn't see Chris cross the line. As soon as he did, I saw Brendan Foster and go crazy. So I jumped up, turned around, and then I just lost it.
Now, Roger Black, he's quite an understated cerebral character. Yeah!
Goal for Britain. America's second. And the gamble paid off.
Every 4x4 in the history of the event, first on top of the list, USA. And then for them to actually end up with silver medal, to them was absolute failure.
Yeah, we're all there, hands in the air, sort of waving to everybody, and you look down, you see some stone-faced Americans there who don't look too happy. Then it was like, this is ours.
But the bottom line was, on the day, we delivered because we were confident, but we weren't complacent.
It doesn't happen very often, but if you dare to win and you're brave enough to do something different and take a risk, you can achieve the ultimate.
Great story, and I remember the event well, and the whole discussion leading up to it. What's the message of the video? What was the message of this whole story? Well, firstly, it's about leading and managing the team, and the team can end up being less than the sum of its members. And I think if some of us are honest, some of the teams that we operate in are in that space. The team is, they're great individuals and competent individuals on that, members of our team. But when you bring them all together, they're operating at less than the sum of the skill set in members. And as an avid football fan, especially when at World Cup, it's one of my heartbreak thoughts is that the England team is always built up, and when you look at them player for player, we are usually one of the best teams in every World Cup event, but sadly we never seem to be able to bring it together. The team can be equal to some of its members, and this is good. This is what at least this is what you expect the situation to be. Is that you've got some skilled players or skilled people on the team that at least the team could perform at equal to the members on that team. But I think this video showed us that when you apply leadership and management, then the result should be a team that is greater than the sum of its members. So the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. And I put in added this idea here, which is the sort of the life cycle of a team. The forming of a team, the storming, norming, performing of a team. And what you see here is that when the team is operating at less than the sum of its parts, it's still in that storming mode. It's still conflicts, it's still friction, and people are not gelling together. But once they gel, you get this norming, and that's when you can see that the team is equaling the sum of the members or the people within the team. But it's only when you get to performing, it's only when you get that complementarity of the members, and the weaknesses of members in the team are being mitigated by the strengths in other members, and you get the sum of the parts outperforming the team outperforming the sum of the parts. That's when you're performing, and that's where we want to get to as gig entrepreneurs, is creating teams around us that allow us to outperform what we would do individually. So emotional intelligence starts with self-leadership and culminates with our influence on others. This is a piece of work developed by Daniel Goleman, and it was well received and has made a major influence on the way that we think about intelligence in industry and even in teaching. We realize that there is more than one form of intelligence, and often schools are focusing on a very narrow focus of intelligence. Okay, so let's have a quick chat here. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and interpret and process emotions in yourself and others. So the ability to recognize, interpret, and process emotions in yourself and others. Emotional intelligence. As gig entrepreneurs, who do we need to influence? Who do we need to have effective relationships with? Because business owners and employees conventionally focus on their relationships with their colleagues or their team members, and we've been talking about team members to this point. But as gig entrepreneurs, you're going to be in a position where you're, for a long period of time, or especially in the early stages of your business, you're going to be a one-man, one-woman band, as graphically described here. And you're going to need a range of people around you who you're going to interact with and successfully interact with, and they're going to influence the way that you do business. So on the chat, give me some possible answers of the people that you think you will need to influence or interact with as gig entrepreneurs. Excellent. I'm now seeing your feedback. So Jenny, thank you. Clients, clearly that's obvious that we need to interact with clients. Nathan, going on clients, stakeholders, customers, suppliers. Katrina, thank you for your input on potential clients as well as maybe team members that we're working with. And Charlton is in all forms of stakeholders. Thank you. And thank you for the contributions on definitions of emotional intelligence. Clearly, you're absolutely right. These are clearly the people that we need to interact with. And what we term this is the gig entrepreneur's orbit. Because we see this is an orbit where the gig entrepreneur is interacting and engaging with different types of people, different bodies of people at different stages in his life cycle. So it may not be a team, but these are definitely people with which the entrepreneur, the clients, the suppliers, associates, influencers, especially in this digital economy, regulatory bodies. These are people that the gig entrepreneur has to effectively influence using or manage relationships with, using people skills. And the way that the entrepreneur has to interact with these people is going to be different, and it's going to be dynamic, and you need to have the confidence to be able to manage these relationships. It is not straightforward, it is not simple, and hence the need for this emotional intelligence. So again, another interactive session, but I want you to write down the elements of emotional intelligence that are mentioned in this video as I play.
Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to recognize, interpret, and process emotions in yourself and others. While genetics, upbringing, and environment all play a role, there are steps you can take to develop your emotional intelligence over time. Get to know yourself. Emotionally intelligent people are self-aware. They have a realistic appreciation of their strengths and weaknesses and how they come across to others. Peer feedback is one way of improving your self-awareness and may uncover a few of your emotional blind spots. Learn your triggers. Linked to the notion of self-awareness is knowing how you are likely to respond in particular situations. Think about how you felt the last time you were under pressure. Did these feelings help or hinder you? Recognizing emotions and the source of these emotions can shift your emotional state. Empathize. Seeing things from someone else's perspective will help you understand their values and beliefs. This is important when it comes to motivating and engaging others. Make a conscious effort to get to know your colleagues. Ask open questions and actively listen to what they have to say, rather than simply waiting for your turn to speak. Be on the lookout for body language and other non-verbal signs, as these may tell you more than someone is willing to express out loud. Own your emotions. Part of being emotionally intelligent is about taking responsibility for the way you interact with others. If someone upsets you, pause and reflect on why their actions led you to feel this way, instead of reacting impulsively. Recognize that a conversation is a two-way interaction, and it takes two people to make you angry, sad, or frustrated. Go with your gut. Finally, listen to your body. If your stomach starts doing backflips every time you speak to a senior manager, or your muscles tense up before you go into a meeting, what does this tell you? Counterintuitive as it might seem, emotions can be a valuable source of information when making rational decisions at work. Remember, emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about learning how to recognize, process, and channel them in a way that benefits you and your team. Enhancing your emotional intelligence requires effort, but it can be achieved with sustained practice.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. So what were the key points that came out from that video? Again, what were the key aspects of emotional intelligence mentioned in the video? Some interaction, please. Give me some feedback on your chat. Okay, excellent. So self-awareness. Thank you, Jamie. Kume, learning your triggers. Yep, excellent. Thank you, Kume. Nathan, understand your emotional triggers. Yeah, that's good. Self-awareness, taking responsibility. I think it was Katrina that gave me that one. Thank you very much. Silas, thank you. Being able to fully understand your emotions and express them in an effective way. Great stuff. Then keep them coming. Thank you very much for those contributions. Yes, all of those things are absolutely right. Self-awareness, learn your triggers, empathize, put yourself in the other person's point of view, owning your emotions, taking responsibility for your emotions and recognizing those emotions. Use the information from your emotions to make rational decisions. Go with the gut, I like that one, your instincts, and channel your emotions to benefit you and your team. Thank you very much. So, emotional intelligence is increasingly understood to be more important and more pressing in our work relationships than IQ. So EQ exerts more influence on IQ than IQ rather. Okay, let's have a little bit of fun. All of us understand it when it doesn't work. We've all been in situations where we've worked with people who are maybe had high IQs, maybe very, very intelligent people, but had no idea about how to manage their emotions. So let's just have a quick chat here. Recall people you've worked with who had a low EQ or emotional intelligence. What was the effect on you, on others, and on the business? Give me a few examples, a few stories in the chat session. Just one or two. We've got one contribution. So it was a situation where the person never listened to what they were saying or what other people were saying. Charlton's give an example that they were totally non-productive because, again, I assume that their emotions were all over the place, that nothing was produced. Any more examples of people that you worked with who had low EQ? Another example, again, a low approach, a low team spirit. Charlton, thank you. That was a example of the whole team spirit was depressed because of the actions of one person. Frustration among the team, absolutely. When someone is within a working relationship has a low EQ, it really has a negative effect and causes the team to underperform. You know? Pessimistic or pessimism. Simba, thanks for that. Pessimism among the team members. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, Alpheus, they took everything personal. Absolutely. That's something I'm working in a team at the moment, on a board, and the chairperson is continually taking everything personal. And the effect of that is that it stifles discussion. Yeah, so what you need within a board is the ability to have free discussion. We can't have that because the chairperson takes everything personally. Stubbornness to go with their own decisions. Yeah, they don't listen to other people. So thank you very much for those. That's great. Those are great contributions. Thank you. So what can we do? What can we do? Well, the first thing we need to understand is that actually emotional intelligence is not just about learning new skills or developing specific skills. It's also about stopping certain kinds of habits. Yeah? You can't always change the way that people treat you or what they say about you, but you can, all you can do is change how you react to that situation. This is a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. And very importantly, we can do things that would, if we could stop these habits, it would empower us to be positive and create positive feelings and help us to develop our own level of emotional maturity. So one of the areas that we need to think about is to stop criticizing others. I mean, obviously, a certain level of critique doesn't mean that we're blind to other people's shortcomings, but criticizing others just to make ourselves feel better is very negative and very damaging. Worrying about the future, clearly planning for the future is important, but worrying about the future and attempting to control the future, overly control the future, is an energy and a use of energy that is very debilitating. Similarly, the other extreme is ruminating too long about the past. You can't change anything in the past. And reflection is positive. Worrying about the past or the things that you've done and how it went bad or how you messed up in the past is not going to change anything. Yeah, learn from it, move on. And the big one, I suppose, the big one in my thinking is unrealistic expectations. Many of our disappointments come from expectations that are unrealistic, and we use it to try and control other people. And this is not what we want to do as gig entrepreneurs. We need to be in a position where if people mess up, we don't go into criticizing, but we recognize it, we help them to see their problem, and we move on. You know, overly worrying about the future. Let's plan for the future, don't worry about it. Let's learn from the past, not linger in the past. Let's set expectations that are realistic and that help us to achieve our goals. But there are some positive things to be achieved from emotional intelligence. Clearly, increased performance of the team, decreasing occupational stress. A lot of people are stressed at work because they lack the emotional intelligence to be able to put it in its right context. Improved decision making. When you've got an overload of emotions in a situation, it impedes your ability to make clear decisions. Increased leadership ability because you're calm, you're relaxed, you are in control of your emotions, and increased personal well-being are all positive things to be gained for emotional intelligence from the correct exercise or positive exercise of emotional intelligence. So we're now going to come to looking at the key areas of emotional intelligence, tools or aspects of emotional intelligence that we can learn and enhance within ourselves that will better enable us to manage our emotions in a positive way and channel those emotions to achieve our objectives. So there are 5 key elements of the emotional intelligence thinking: self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation, and developing the social skills that we need to manage our emotions. We're going to go through these briefly, and in some briefly, but in some detail. First of all, self-awareness. You always know how you feel, and you know how your emotions and your actions affect other people. This is what self-awareness is about. Tools for self-awareness. Keep a journal. Record how you felt about certain situations and about certain leading up to certain decisions, key decisions you made. How did you feel? What was going through your mind at the time? As a Christian, we encourage believers to keep journals. because we go through a whole range of emotions through our Christian journey. And it's exactly the same thing in your business journey. You need to make some key decisions at certain times in the life of your business. And it's useful if you can keep a journal, because sometimes problems or situations unfold and work themselves out without us even knowing. And we expend a lot of emotional energy. And if we keep a journal, if we're able to record those situations and understand how we felt, then when we face another situation that's very similar, maybe for a different reason, we can remind ourselves of how we felt the last time we came to making this major decision, and yet things worked out, and all that energy that we expended and all that emotion that that we had to go through, we find that actually it was unnecessary. Things have a way of working themselves through once you give it time. Regularly notice how you feel and what triggers those feelings. So back to those triggers. What triggered that emotion or those emotional responses? What situation, combination of situations that cause those things to happen? Pay attention to other people's body language other people's body language, and become aware of how you're impacting them. Yeah. Take emotional intelligence assessments. Yeah, absolutely. If you can do that, that's all good. Secondly, self-regulation. I love this picture. I remember many a times with my sons being in this situation, and I have to confess, many a times I joined them on the ground, so we could all have throw a little tantrum. Remember, self-regulation is not about suppression; it's about regulating, and the power of taking a different perspective on a situation. So, this little almost cartoon. Yeah, first I used to live within my own emotions, my own feelings, and I was captured by those feelings. Secondly, I then became so exhausted by identifying with my ever-changing emotions. And it's true. I mean, in any one day, we go through a range of different emotions. Until, number three, I learned I could step back and take a different perspective. For once I was able to put those emotions as perspective, I could see them for what they are. So the ability to step back, emotionally intelligent people are able to step back, look at their emotions, look at the way they behave and the emotions that were driving those behaviors, and live in the moment rather than feel the moment. Think through and manage their emotions in a positive and empowering way. It is essential that we do not confuse self-regulation with self-control. Self-control is about trying to inhibit impulses. Self-regulation is about reducing the incidence and intensity of impulses in the first place. Self-regulation is what makes self-control possible, and in many cases unnecessary. Dr. Stuart Shanker. Tools for self-regulation. I mean, I love this picture. You know, this is, for those of you that don't watch basketball, this is LeBron James. And if you see LeBron James on the basketball court, I mean, like, he's a big fella and he's explosive. Yet here he is in this state of calm. And this is where we need to be. Emotionally intelligent people know when to allow for that explosive energy to take place. And on the basketball court, he's at the moment second to none. So know your values, write a personal code of ethics. I talked about being a Christian earlier on. And so the ethics of my faith sets boundaries on my values. Yeah. There's certain things that if you understand your own values, it creates boundaries on your behavior. Not everything's acceptable. Hold yourself accountable. You know, don't allow bad behavior in yourself to go unchecked. So hold yourself an account. Expect high levels of emotional intelligence from yourself. Practice being calm. Pause and reflect when you experience strong emotions. Focus on what you want to achieve rather than how you feel. Yeah, this is really important. Focus on what you want to achieve. Many of us respond or react. Let's react to situations by how we feel rather than what we want to achieve. This is interesting because I've been involved in a conversation with some folks just recently, and when the conversation was being done verbally, you could see that actually a lot of the responses, and I'm sure you experience this for yourself, a lot of responses that you get in a conversation, especially a heated conversation, a conversation is people respond in the way that they feel rather than what the person is actually saying. And I remember having to take a situation and let it calm down, and let it the verbal situation, let it come to an end, and then pick up the conversation online through email and look at what everyone was actually saying. So they had to make their contributions in writing. So this allows people to reflect and be very precise about what it is they want to say, and then summarize everybody's positions and respond to the issues, the specific issues that people wanted to bring up. And we're able to come to a resolution that everybody felt comfortable with much easier, because we were able to take the emotions out of the debate. Avoid or step out of situations that trigger you. Yeah. So that example, I stepped out of the verbal conversation and went to a non-verbal conversation that allowed those triggers to be mitigated or eliminated, and manage situations to reduce triggers in the first place, as I've said. Okay, a little bit of fun. How could this passenger apply self-regulation for this video? So let's see. I live in hope. Fingers crossed.
I would like an aisle seat, but not over the engine. And I'm a vegetarian. Also, could you make a note that I'm lactose intolerant?
Okay, I'll just type all that in. I'm really sorry, Miss Bennos, but it would appear the flight's been double booked. But we can get you on our next one at 11:25.
No, that's no good for me. I have to be in a meeting in approximately 3 hours, so I must go now.
Well, I'm afraid that won't be possible. I'm really sorry, but the next flight is the best we can do for you.
Do you have any idea how important I am to this company? I demand that you extricate someone from their seat and you get me on that flight, and I shall not leave here until you do so. Do you understand?
I'm really sorry. You're going to have to get the 11:25 or...
She said I've got to go 11:25. I don't want that! I want to go on the aeroplane now!
Okay, well, let me see what I can do, but I can't... Look, I'm really sorry, but I can't... No! Okay, we've got one more seat available on the flight.
Thank you.
Enjoy your flight.
Where's the aeroplane? I can't find it.
So I don't know what you think about that. Just some thoughts. But I mean, that's just hilarious. It really is. So what could you do to self-regulate? Some thoughts, please. Any thoughts on that one? How do you could self-regulate? Let's see. I'm sure that you're as hilarious as I was. It's just, I'm seeing that Hendrina's just creasing with laughter. We're still laughing. Yeah, absolutely. Too much pride and playing the victim. Playing the victim. I mean, I've got off script now. I mean, you know, really, at least you got her seat. Thank you, Adrina, because that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, next time I'm in a situation like that, perhaps I ought to try that one, but you didn't hear that from me. Because clearly, I mean, being serious, you know, yeah, absolutely. Everybody's thinking that she got her seat, you know, it achieved the objective. So maybe there is some method in the madness, but really, you got to think about it from the point of view, can you live your life like that? Yeah, you know, that is a huge amount of energy. You know, I like that, Timothy. I mean, I've done that many a times. You know, when the boys wanted to throw tantrums in the middle of the not in the airport, but in the supermarket. You think, you know, they're doing it deliberately because they know that you've got to give in. Just walk off and leave them. Yeah. So I hear you. I hear you. So, but the point is this: you can't. It's an extreme example. You cannot live your life like that. You cannot live your life where you are totally, your emotions are totally out of control. Even if, you know, or try and manipulate people through these kind of extreme emotions. So I share your humor and your sense of that was wow, what was all that about? But it's so funny. But many people live their lives like that. They are their emotions are on their sleeves, and the way they deal with disappointments is to make other people feel guilty around them and to get their way. And we cannot do this. Yeah. So we've got to learn to regulate our emotions. Okay, so some motivational pointers here. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the success. It's part of the growing process, because we learn from that and we move on. Especially as gig entrepreneurs, we're going to have situations where, you know, it's not always going to be on an upward trajectory. Everything that we do is going to be positive. It's going to be, you know, successful. You know, there are going to be times when things don't work out, and we've got to have the emotional resilience to be able to get through it. Yeah. She's unstoppable, not because she didn't have failures or doubts, but because she continued despite them or in spite of them. Losers quit when they fail. Winners fail until they succeed. Absolutely. You know, hundreds and hundreds of examples of people failing, but you only hear about when they succeed, because that's all we're interested in. And the stories about your life and your experience as a gig entrepreneur, no one will be interested in the amount of times you failed. They'll only be interested in the time you succeed. And that's all you'll remember after a while too. Our greatest goal is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fail. And I remembered a story in the 1980s stock market crash. I was working for Reuters, and when on Black Monday, when the stock market dropped, I don't know, some huge millions and millions of dollars, pounds and dollars of money was people were losing, you know, literally by the hour. And I remember some of the more junior members or inexperienced traders were trying to sell to mitigate the losses, whereas the older guys who had been through situations like this before just sat calmly and waited. And yes, their stocks were going through the floor, but they had the experience of knowing that it would rebound. And I remember sort of many of the customers coming to Reuters and wanting to cancel, and Reuters reminded them that actually within 2 years the market will revive, and there is a 2-year cancellation clause in our contract. And because of that clause, many of their clients didn't quit. And interestingly, within 2 years, the market had totally recovered and exceeded where it was at that point. So, you know, if you quit and get out the game when things are going wrong, you'll never know what you could have achieved. If only you'd stayed put. Okay, motivation. Working consistently towards your goals and maintain high standards. Motivation is an attitude rather than an activity or an episodic thing that you do. You know, I need to motivate myself now. Actually, you motivate, you live in a positive frame of mind, and you continually motivating yourself because that's what you do. And we need to learn to do that. Leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they come to believe it themselves or see it themselves. As Stephen Covey shared that idea. Tools for motivation: reflect on what you're doing and what you do. Be optimistic. Look for learnings, look for opportunities when faced with challenges. That's how you motivate. Continually see that you're on a learning cycle, and that as you motivate yourself, you know, things will get better. Empathy, and this is an interesting diagram. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's situation. This slide illustrates empathic listening. It's a process where we listen without judgment or giving advice or evaluating. And when it's done well, and there are some people that can do it well, when we train ourselves to do it well, it can be a powerful tool for empowering the person that's speaking, because the listener enables the speaker to unravel their own thoughts, to reach their own conclusions and solutions. That's empathic listening. So by active listening or empathic listening, the confused, jumbled thoughts in the speaker's head, by reflecting what's being said clearly, the listener is able to help that person unravel their thinking and come to their own conclusions. Because when the person comes to their own conclusion, then they're more likely to follow it. The ability to give constructive feedback, to listen to those who need it. Listening with the intention of understanding the person's position and point of view without judgment. That's difficult sometimes. Yeah. Pay attention to the person's body language and respond to the feelings, not react to their feelings. Okay. Our last poll question: which response is empathic? So your colleague is saying, I don't want to speak to this client. He's so difficult. Do you respond in the following ways, or one of the following ways? Give me your answer. Which do you think is most appropriate and which is most empathic?
Okay, the results are in, Prof. 6% chose D, which is maybe you need to change the way you speak to them, while 94% chose the last option. Tell me more. What are you concerned about?
Okay, so let me just run. So mostly everybody, D and E. Thank you very much. Yes, well, E is the empathic response. Tell me more. What are you concerned about? This is empathic because it attempts to find out more from the other person's perspective. D, the other one, maybe you need to change the way you speak to him. This is a judgment and an attempt to fix the problem when we don't have all the information. Yeah. So that is a judgment that you're making, and we often do it. Okay, so empathy. Thank you. And finally, the fifth area was social skills. Good communication is critical for developing social skills. We need to be open to good news and bad news, and be able to motivate each other and others around us, even when the situation looks negative. That really takes a lot of practice and a lot of skills. So, tools for developing social skills, we need to learn to manage conflict and resolution skills, being able to bring people together, improve our communication skills, and appreciate and inspire others, things that we've spoken about earlier. So those are the 5 areas. Our final chat is how will you apply emotional intelligence in your orbit? Take a brief moment just to think about that. As an entrepreneur, as a gig entrepreneur, how will you develop and apply emotional intelligence in your orbit? We've done some interesting things this morning, some had a bit of fun, but think about it now. How are you going to apply this? How are you going to, those 5 areas that we spoke of, those 5 areas of emotional intelligence? How are you going to apply those in your self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation, and social skills? Think about how you're going to apply those in your business orbit, the people around you. Thank you. Thank you. Be empathetic, empathic with clients. Motivate my associates in a new venture. I like that one. Yeah, motivate, because the business world is becoming so complicated. You're going to need associates if you're going to deliver solutions in this complex business environment. Yeah. Charlton, thank you. Adopting a culture of listening to influencers and associates. Yeah, thank you very much. Well done, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, what are our next steps? Next steps is, as we've said in previous weeks, is to self-study. Again, this is not a course in which you're going to be examined in any way. That's not what the purpose is. The purpose is for you to develop ideas and develop input that's going to make you a more competent practitioner as a gig entrepreneur. So do some background reading. We've identified some material that you can read for yourself to help you to become more familiar with emotional intelligence. Practice those 5 areas. Practice developing them and developing them in your own life, and developing that skill set that's going to make you more effective as an entrepreneur. People are sources of capital, that need to be invested. You need to invest in people, and these people will help you achieve your vision. Reflect on some of the things and discuss. Please get involved in the discussion on our Facebook site. Please get involved in that discussion. I will attempt to try and respond to some of the comments. I know I've been a bit remiss in that in the past few couple of weeks, but I will attempt to do so over the next few days. So again, thank you very much. I once again apologize for all the glitches today, but I'm learning something about bandwidth. When you have low bandwidth, you lose some of the functionality of some of these tools. So let's see. I'm going to see what we can do going forward to make sure that we have very strong bandwidth. But get on Facebook, coffee, Facebook, typing, all the ingredients you need for sharing and increasing your knowledge. Next week, we get into customers and markets. We're going to work on helping you to find markets, develop customers, and close deals. Tools are going to enable you to do that better. In the summary of what we've done today, this session you learned about the importance of emotional intelligence to business growth, because it's about investing in people, and people help you to achieve your vision. And we learned about ways of increasing emotional intelligence, and we identified the 5 areas for doing so: self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation, and social skills. Thank you very much. Any questions, any final questions before I close this session? In fact, if you've got any questions, just put them on the chat or on Facebook, and we'll go into Facebook and continue the discussion. Thank you very much, and I look forward to engaging with you again next week or during this week on Facebook. Thank you.